Local SEO checklist guide for rankings on Google in 2022. This will be a local SEO checklist guide for rankings in Google for 2022. That's exactly what I'm going to walk you through, a 10-point checklist for rankings in Google in 2022. So I really don't want to waste any time. What I would like to give you is some of the most impactful 10 things that you need to be looking at when you're trying to rank a web page on Google. All right. Now, of course, there's other search engines, but most notably, we're looking at Google because that's where a majority of the web traffic is going to come from. All right. So that's why we're really going to focus on that. So with that being said, I want to walk you through the 10-point checklist, the guide for rankings for 2022. And then on top of that, I want to give you an explanation of why, and I'll also give you some examples of why this is important. So that's exactly what I'm going to do right now. Let's go ahead and take a look at, we're going to use a search phrase, a search term, and we're going to take a look at the differences between a top performer and a, say, number 9 or number 10 performer for a specific keyword that's going to be relatively competitive. So for the search phrase for the checklist that I'm going to give you the walkthrough on, what I'm going to go ahead and utilize is Lawyer Miami. Okay, so when we take a look at Lawyer Miami, what we see here is we have these 1, 2. So this is not a site like yours. This is a directory website, but we have this particular website up at the top. So this is going to be the top performing website that could be potentially like yours, not a massive brand or a directory. And then as we scroll down, we have number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8, number 9, number 10. And then we have the Gray Robinson. Okay, so I'm going to skip over this one right here, this attorney super lawyers. We're going to take a look at this one here. So we have the lower performer. Okay, and then we have the top performing website that is not a massive website. So not Justia, not Lawyers Find Law. All right. Now, before I go ahead and get into this, if you're interested in this particular checklist or any other checklist or anything at all, please feel free, check out SEOmastermind.org. That's SEOmastermind.org. Poof. This is what it looks like. You can get to everything here. All right. So with that being said, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the deficits. I want to give you the 10 most impactful things that will affect ranking in 2022. All right. So this is just a quick checklist. 10 things you need to look at. The very first thing that I want to point out to you is that every single SERP, all of them, this is a page by page basis, keyword by keyword basis, phrase by phrase basis. If you have a particular keyword that you want to target, yes, you're optimizing a page for one keyword, one idea, one. Okay. Yes, it's going to bring in dozens of other keywords. But don't get lost in this idea of clustering. Optimize the page for the big, broad primary keyword. And what you will find is you will bring in a lot of the secondary keywords simply by having them on the page one time. So let's start looking at some of these deficits. Of course, I already have the list laid out. You can get it from the SEO Mastermind. But what we're going to go ahead and do is the number one thing that we really want to start looking at is what type of page is Google rewarding? Now, as you can see here, when we come take a look at the particular SERP, what we will find that this is a website that's going to be like you. Again, it's not a directory, it's not a massive brand. This is a site that could be like yours. Okay. When we take a look at the site, we could see that this is a homepage. So one of the top performers is a homepage. Okay. That's Yelp. That's not going to count. HG Law. So we have an inner page. Now we have a homepage. Inner. Okay. Homepage. Inner. Okay. And then Gray Robinson is an inner. Now, it's it's throwing both types of pages. So I think that the opportunity to have either an inner or a homepage is going to be very good. However, for this instance, just like a lot of local SERPs, a homepage that's dedicated to the city or town or service that we're targeting generally is going to do better. Now, that already puts us let's say that this is the client here, for instance. This would already put us at a slight disadvantage, but Google is still rewarding inner pages. It's just going to put us at a slight disadvantage. So number one, if you're going to copy these down as a checklist, the very first thing that we need to look at here is going to be exactly this. What type of page is Google rewarding? Is it a blog post? Is it a product page? Is it an inner page? Is it a home page? Is it a location page? Is there a map? What is it? What kind of SERP is it? What's Google rewarding? Number one. Let's move into the number two on the checklist. So the number two thing, all right, we could get rid of these. Let me just get rid of these so we don't have them showing up. All right. Don't save. Let's go over to this one. One moment here, quick, sorry. Alrighty. Let's go into the number two element. So the number two thing that we want to go ahead and look at is going to be once we know what the kind of page is, let's go ahead and take a look at the top performing website. So this is the top performer. So if we take a look at this, on this tool here is SEO Quake, what we want to look at is Google seems to have a 2884. So that's the number one ranker. Now, what I like to do is I like to come up with an average. What type of, is it long form? Is it short? Is it medium? Like how many words are on this page? Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at that here quick. So we have this performer here. Now let's take a look at another site that's kind of like ours. Okay, and we're just going to get a rough estimate here. So 2,800, 1,200, okay. And then last but not least, we can come in here and take a look at this one here, and 1,400. Okie doke. So this is the number one top performer. So we have 2,800 words. So generally what I like to do is if we have 2,800 words, I believe it's what, 2,884 plus we have the 1,700 plus I believe, what was that other one? 1,200, right? Equals, divide that by 3 will bring us to an average word count between those three top performing websites that we pulled in of about 1,900 words. Okay, top performer has 2,800, but if we average a lot of the top performers that are sites like ours, we're coming to about 1,900, 2,000 words. So that's what we're looking for. So let's go ahead and take a look at the secondary winner here. I believe it was this Grayson. So here, let me just get rid of these quick so we don't get them tied up. So here's number 1 and here's number 9 or 10, I believe. All right, so let's go ahead and take a look and see what kind of word counts we have here. All right, so as you can see here, we have a deficit, 321 words. This guy's sitting at 11. Okay, so this brand is sitting at number 11. The SERP's calling for about 2,000 words. The top performer has 2,800 words. So the number 2 thing on the list is how many words do I need? Because inside of each of those words, when a top performer has 2,800 words and you're only writing, 320, you don't encompass enough of the entities and co-occurring key phrases in order to perform for the SERP, especially in a highly competitive niche such as law, all right? In a big city like Miami, okay? Unacceptable. So, unacceptable. So with that being said, we're going to move into the very next element on the checklist. So far, we can see that we're at a disadvantage. It's not a homepage. Number 2, we don't have the right amount of word count. So let's just for this case scenario, because we're taking a look at these 2 examples, we have the top performing website, and then let's just say that this is our client's website. So we're already at a disadvantage by not having it on the homepage. Number 2, we don't have enough words on the page. Let's move into the next or third most impactful thing in order to rank for this specific keyword. Okay, so as we go up the list here, number 3 is let's take a look at the density word count. All right, so if we're taking a look at the density word counts here, right, very, very important element, okay, essential to winning. Now, just because we know that the primary keyword is going to be lawyer Miami does not mean that that's what Google is rewarding. So let's take a look at the top performing website. So this is the analyzation that needs to be performed. When we come inside here and we take a look at this, all right, we see that there's 2,800 words. We have Rosen, Brand, and then we're going to take a look at the primaries. So we're looking at lawyer or any variation thereof. So it could be a match, a co-occurring word, but really like attorney and lawyer, same thing almost. So let's see here. So really Google's rewarding attorneys, not even at a whole percentage. Legal, Miami. So Miami is at a percent. So actually, no, it's 70%. And then attorneys is at a percent. So really it's going to be attorneys and Miami at a half and then a 1. But let's get a second opinion on this, meaning let's take a look at the next performer down the list here to get ourselves a slight, to get ourselves a nice set, a nice test set that we can take a look at as far as analyzation. So this is set up as a directory. They're trying to make a play because that's what Google's rewarding. So that's, one of the ways they got up here. So let's go ahead in here and take a look at this one here. I just want to see here. So as we can see here, so crimes, criminal, fraud, charges, violence, domestic. But let me show you something. Top performing website right here, right? 2,800 words. Cases, attorney, Miami. Okay. So attorney, Miami, legal. Now let me show you something here. If we scroll in here, and I've never even looked at this, but let's go to the top performing website. This is the #1 result, and I understand that it's Justia, but let me just share this with you. So if we come inside of here, see what we have here? Lawyer, law, Miami. Okay. Lawyer, law, Miami. Easy. The primary keyword is lawyer, Miami. Now let's go in here and take a look at this. So we can see that Google's rewarding 1% to 2% for lawyer, law, and Miami. We have a top performing website that's using a variation of the keyword or a secondary is attorneys. And then we have Miami at, so they're doing a point. So it's a 70%. The word attorneys is at a percentage. Top performing website, even though it's an authority, we have lawyer is at almost 3. And then we have Miami at 1.87. Let's go take a look at the number 10 ranker. All right, the brand that's at the bottom of the page. So let's see what they're doing. Are they over optimized or are they under optimized? Because this is next. The density of the primary, a variation or a match is essential. We need to make sure that we have the right words on the page the right amount of times. All right, so let's take a look. Why is this guy ranked? So we have 321 words. The word Miami is 2.49%. making up 77.92% of the prominence of the overall page. If we take a look at Justia, Miami, 51. So if we take a look at this guy's ranking number 11. He's got 77.92% of the prominence on the page at a 2.49. He only has 300 words. It's stuffed in here. So not only do we not have enough words, but we're just packing in keywords. Right? So this is a flag. This is unacceptable because I don't have enough co-occurring keywords to support the primary at a 77.92% prominence on the page. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't calculate. It calculates to number 11. When we get farther into this list, we're going to see some other things, but this is essential. What we want to do here, as far as this piece, as far as calculating density, we need to look at the primary keyword. So what's being rewarded? Miami, lawyer, law, and attorneys. We need to see what the top performing websites have as far as density once we figure out what our average word count's going to be. And we need to go slightly above matching the prominence so we can hit those levels. All right? So this guy, again, we're way over-tuned. We're over-tuned. Period blank for this particular site. It's over-tuned for the word count. Done. All right, so there's that. That's density, and that's what we need to take a look at. Let's move into the next thing. So the next piece that we want to look at is the amount of zones that are on the page, or the amount of headings. All right, headings are absolutely a signal, in my opinion. I know that we need to have a average, just like we did for word count. We need to see how many heading tags there are on the page. And And that's going to be essential for us to rank. So let's take a look at this. What we're going to do is we're just going to keep looking at the top performing website that could be like our clients. Okay. But it's not my client. This is just for the checklist. So let's take a look at the top performing website. So when we come inside of here, we can see that's 20, 30, 40, 50, 1, 58, 61, 68. They have 68 headings. 68 headings. Wow. Now, I know that that might sound like a lot, but noting that Justia and a FindLaw or a directory, I guarantee you that this particular website here has been optimized. I'm sure whoever did this for them paid close attention to this, because if we go to Justia, the top performing website, this is a directory. I can almost venture to guess that they're going to have a lot of headings. I'm astonished. They must be blocking something. Let's go to the next one. I bet you they have a lot of headings. They might be ranked. So 27, that's 30. That's still a lot. 30. But wow, these guys have a really high amount of headings. That's 68. Let's go to the next one and see what we got going on here. I'm actually quite surprised by this. Could happen. So we have 20, 40. Let's say we have 40. So basically what I would end up doing is we can see that it's 68. We have a 40. And then I think it was a 22 equals. Divide that by the 3 websites that we pulled in. 43 would be a good average. I'm sure you could get away with 30. But let's just take a look. All right. Let's take a look at the client's site and see if there's any type of deficit. So let's take a look. Let's see, why are they ranking number 12 or number 11, whatever number they're ranking. Let's go in here and take a look. Okay. They only have 2. Not even close to the amount of zones or the amount of headings that need to be on the page. Okay. So here's another one. Check. This is why you're number 12, right? The SERP's calling for about 40. 38 to 40, somewhere in that range. I'm sure if you looked at the top 10 performers and got the average, that would give you a better, clearer indication of how many headings I needed. But if we take a look at the next thing on the checklist, is once we know how many heading tags there are, well, how many of those heading tags are optimized? Meaning, how many of them have the keyword or a variation of the keyword inside of them? This is next, okay? So if we take a look at the top performing website, let's not look at this one. Again, we're looking at the sites that are much like ours, okay? You can't look at a dominator in the space and think that that's your competitor, because it's not, all right? The probability of you beating them for big primary keywords when Google has rewarded them spot positions 1 and 2, highly unlikely. However, if you did 20 searches in a row, right? Because there's always a fluctuation. Not often at the top, more so in the middle. But if you did 20 searches in a row, you might, 10% of the time, show up at the top. You might, okay? So in any case, we could talk about that in another video. However, when we come inside here and we take a look at the headings, we can see that recover $1 billion victims. Okay. So they said that 2 times. Here's the word attorney. So that's 1. None. Okay. 1. So what we're doing here is we're looking for, out of the amount of headings that they have, how many of the headings have a keyword or a variation of the keyword inside of them. And that's exactly what we're counting. So I saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 out of 68, not that many. But let's take a look at this one. All right. So 5 out of 68. So unfortunately, I know that this particular website only has 2 headings. Okay. But if we're looking at it heading by heading, they have, the top performer has 68 headings. 5 out of that 68 are optimized. So what's that percentage? 10%? 12%? Right? This particular website has 50% of the headings optimized. So over-tuned for the amount of word count and the amount of headings that should be there, right? So this site, again, over-tuned, it's not properly optimized, in my opinion, okay? So again, we need to add more headings, and then we're looking at about 40, and then only optimize 4 or 5 of those headings, meaning putting a keyword inside of them. All right, so that's essential to ranking a page in 2022. So we're going to keep going down the list here. All right, number 6 is the amount of internal links. Okay, so internal links, just to give you a small explanation, much like an external link coming in. All right, an external link coming in is like a vote from another website, right? Oh my gosh. Now, I really like this explanation. So an external link coming in is a vote from a website, correct? You know, it's like how many votes or how many links do I get from other websites coming in, talking about or coming from the same category, right? Like, is that website related to my website? Also, does that website have an anchor text that's related to the topic that I'm trying to rank for? Like, how many votes are coming in that are actually relevant, right? Now, the same kind of goes for internal linking, all right? But you actually control the internal linking all the way. And there's no penalization for internal linking or using exact matches. So the amount of anchor text or the amount of hyperlinks on a page are all being calculated and counted, okay? So how many links are pointing to the page that I'm trying to rank? Because the more internal links pointing to a page, that's like me saying to Google, hey, this page is really important, okay? Just like how many external links are coming in. If you have a website that has 10 referring domains pointing at it, or I have a website that has 1,000 referring domains pointing to it, depending on the links, of course, and the quality of the links, right? I understand. But if I have 1,000 links pointing, hey, this must be very important. So the same thing goes for internal links. So let's take a look. The top performing website, or the site that's like ours, if we take a look here at the links, and we look at internal, there's 231 internal links on and pointing to this page, okay? They also have 27 links pointing out. That's fair. So let's go ahead and take a look at this site. So this one has, the top performer has 231. The number 12 guy has 22. So he's signaling to Google that this page isn't even that important to him, okay? So 230 versus 22, so again, check. So every single one of these pieces on the checklist, this particular website has failed on so far. I'm sure they'll fix it, right? But each piece so far, this is why this is the difference between 12 and number 1, right? Or number 3 in this case. Okay, so let's keep going. The next thing that we want to look at, we looked at the internal links. Now let's take a look off page. So we've talked about internal votes or links or A tags on a page, right? So that's hyperlinks. It could be linking to other pages. It could be linking to myself. But you also want to take a look at what are the anchor texts inside. So they use words like firm and offices and attorneys. But let's come into this one and just take a quick look at what is in those A tags on this page. So let's just take a look. Are they optimized? Are they unoptimized? What are they doing here? So it looks like they're naming out ESQ. So that's Esquire, I believe. So some of them, well, they're using co-occurring key phrases. Like these words often come up when talking about lawyers, right? So these are highly relevant keywords. Relevance is rank. So clearly they're doing very well. Let's take a look at the externals. So this is links leaving the page, but still Google, when they're doing the crunch, right? The number crunch, when they're crawling the website, you know, it's going to give up an A tag. So what are they linking out to? Okay, so it looks like a phone number, a learn more. So they wasted that one. So this is actually where they've been featured. And if we take a look here, they've been featured in Rolling Stone, CBS News. So they have some juice. They have a couple good links. Two for that matter. But in any case, they still have them. And a lot of them are optimized with co-occurring key phrases. So again, they beat them there too. So let's go ahead and take a look off page. All right, so that's the next piece on the list here is going to be, well, what is the overall referring domain counts? Far less, but much higher quality is what I venture to guess. I didn't sort them, but they have 1,900 referring domains on this particular website. When we take a look at the backlink analytics, we can see like it's like little bursts. It's looking like, so they're actively link building. That's a lot. That's a lot. They are actively building links. If this site would just fix the content, their internal links, the word counts, the densities, the headings, they're actually doing good with the linking score. They have an authoritative website. They're consistently building links. I'm not going to go digging, but when we take a look at the anchor text, this to me, when I see this, looks like automated because they don't want to negatively impact the website, so it's just naked. It's just gone, nothing. So, you know, if they would clean up a lot of that act, but what we're looking at is the referring domain counts. And also what the very next thing would be, well, if I'm getting a vote from a website, what's the anchor text containing it? Okay. That's the next thing. What's the referring domain count? How many links are pointing to the page that are ranking? What's the anchor text that's pointing into that page? Like, what is it? Is it naked? Is it branded? And what's the ratio? You don't have to get crazy with the ratios, but it's important to know, hey, how many powerful links are they actually sending into the page that they're trying to rank? This will also give you a clear indication of, are they utilizing a network, right? And how you generally can see that is if they're utilizing some type of network, usually what you can go and do is if you take a look here, if they're trying to rank for anything, so let's just take a look here. I don't know if these people are, I have no idea. But we have empty, go now, visit, gray, learn more. We're looking for a keyword here, right? Because they're not going to go out and pay high ticket for a good link. Even if it was just 20 bucks, you're not going to pay money for something and not stick a keyword in there. I wouldn't think. All right, so they might, but I doubt it. So I would just start looking at anything that contains a keyword, even if it's something like this, where they're sending into very specific pages, such as this one. No. Here we go. Florida's law firm, law website, law firm. So I would just take a look at these and see like what type of quality of link are they actually using. Like I would just take a look and see like, are they buying DR30s? Are they buying DR40s? Are they buying 50s? Are they internally linked? Like what are we up against, right? Like what kind of budget are we up against? So that's something I would definitely take a look at. We looked at the anchor text, the overall referring domain counts. Let's go into the next thing, which is going to be the category. So if we're taking a look at a top performing website, so let's go ahead and do that in this space at least, right? If we come over to here, all right, so we have a top performing website. What I like to take a look at is, well, what category are we trying to rank in? So what I'll do generally is take a look at all of the top performing websites. So in this case, it would be Justia. When we're looking at links, we need to look at all the players. So we'll look at Justia. We'll look at Find Law. Look at Super Lawyers. Whoever's ranking up there at the top. What I'm looking for is, well, what type of category are the links that are driving the website being built in at, right? So is it business, industrial? Are they internet and telecom, jobs and education? What category are they in? Because generally, if I'm in a high competition niche like this, my very first step is who's the top performers for the keywords across the board. I'm going to download and export these profiles, and we're going to enlist a VA to literally start just building whatever they can. Just go and build anything free that you can go and get. I don't care what it is. If they have it, go build it. And then on top of that, once we get done doing that, we're going to be looking for a deficit, and then we'll buy into the deficit. That's what we do. I don't know. You can do it however you want, but that's generally what we're looking to do. Figure out what the categories are, figure what we could get for free, whatever the deficit is. If the deficit is 63 DR40 links, that's what we're going to buy, and then we're going to buy into the category. So if I need 40 that are DR40 and I need internet and telecom, that's what I'm going to go by. So these are the things that will move the needle, my friends. All right, so that takes care of that. Let's go over here. You guys have any questions about that? Took a half hour to get that out. It's not too